So if you're addicted to film photography like me, then you know how expensive it can get to maintain this addiction, and film stock and film cameras aren't getting cheaper. They're getting more expensive by the year. Let's take a look at some numbers. In 2005, a 5-pack of Portra 400 cost a mere $34.99. Now it costs somewhere in the ballpark of $45 to $55 depending on where you get it and shipping costs. Scanning a 5-pack of film in high res at a lab can cost anywhere from $75 to $100 depending on if you have a membership with the lab or not and your location. So after a few 5-packs of film, the cost tends to add up. So how can we cut the cost? You can really cut back the cost by developing your own film at home on your own to literally about $50 for 20 rolls after the purchase of a scanner, but that's for another video. Today, we're going to be talking about scanning. Now I know some of you have no interest in developing film at home because yes, it's messy, it's stressful, and it's time consuming, but scanning, that's easy. So if you think about it, what's really better? Spending $250 to $300 at a lab just to develop 15 rolls of film, or spending $150 up front to buy a scanner and all your equipment and never needing to scan film in a lab ever again. The latter sounds better to me, and there's also some other pros to scanning at home, like you can scan at any resolution, you have complete creative control over your pictures, and you can also scan the film borders. The cons, which honestly are worth it for me, are that you have to have an upfront cost whenever you're buying all your equipment, and also it takes about 1 to 2 hours per roll when you are scanning at home, but it's really worth it in the end. In this video, I'll be showing you my at-home scanning process. I'll talk about what gear and equipment you'll need, my setup, and also what software you'll be using to achieve the highest quality scans possible at home. Alright, so first things first, the equipment that you'll need to scan. I have the Epson V600 and it cost me $240 at Best Buy new. But there are options like the Epson V550 and the Canon 8800FF that you can find on eBay for at or under $100 that work just as well. The V600 comes with film holders that work for 35mm film, medium format, and slides. Next, you'll need a laptop or a desktop computer. I use my 13-inch MacBook Pro and it works just fine for the Epson software. You'll also need a rocket blower, a pair of white gloves to prevent fingerprints and smudges on the film surface, and finally some developed 35mm film to scan. There are also some optional things that I highly recommend you get, and that is film sleeves and an external hard drive. The reason you should get film sleeves is because it protects your negatives from dust, scratches, and damage in general, and you should also get an external hard drive to store all your scanned negatives in case you want to travel abroad or something, or you want to take your negative somewhere without having to take the physical actual negative, because if you do take it somewhere, it has, a risk of getting crinkled up or damaged during the trip, so it's good to have an external hard drive. You don't really need it, but I also use a hard drive to just store my pictures in general because they do take up a lot of space. But if you're using a hard drive just to have the negatives, that's not a good idea, because if your hard drive crashes, you could potentially lose everything. If your negatives are just laying about without a film sleeve and they're getting dust and getting scratched and just getting damages all the time, then whenever your hard drive crashes and you need to rescan the negatives, then you're kind of screwed in that sense. So if you had to go with one or the other, I would definitely recommend getting a film sleeve. All right, so now we're gonna go through the step-by-step process on how I scan my negatives at home. So the first step we're gonna go through is setting up your scanner. First, you're gonna wanna put on your white cotton gloves so that you can safely handle your film and prevent leaving fingerprint marks, smudges, or scratches on them. Next, you're gonna fire up your scanner and plug everything in. I keep mine on my desk at all times in my room because there is little dust in here. Make sure when you pick a location to scan your negatives, it's a location where there's not a lot of dust or it's dust free, because you don't want to have to get your rocket blower out constantly and have to keep pumping some air on it to get the dust away, because that just gets annoying and it's time consuming. Then after everything is plugged in and ready to go, it's time to open your scanning software. I use SlurFast 8 for my scanning software, as I have more control over my film scanning process with this than using something like Epson Scan. I don't have an external disk drive on my MacBook, so this disk did come with my Epson V600, but I couldn't use it, so I had to go to Epson's website, and this was the software that they recommended for me. It does require that you enter a serial code, and the serial code is usually found on the back of your printer. So check the back of your printer, add the serial code that you see there, and it should be ready to go. Then you want to get out your rocket blower and hit the film holder and also the top and bottom scanning glass with a few pumps of air until you see no dust that could potentially show up in your scans. If you see any fingerprint marks on the glass, wipe them away with a microfiber cloth, because those will also show up on your scans if you don't take care of them. After everything looks good, blow some air directly on the film negative that you will be scanning and place it in the holder matte side up, glossy side down for the most accurate scans. Give everything one last pump of air if you need and align the holder with the matching letter on the scanner and place it down. Now that you've completed all those steps, you're ready to scan. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to open Silverfast 8, and when it opens, you want to make sure that the proper scanner is showing up on the drop-down menu and then press the start button. After you're in, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that the scan mode is set to transparency. Reflective is used for scanning pictures that are already printed or documents, so make sure that it's not set on reflective and it's set on transparency. Then you're going to want to set the material to positive since we won't be editing the photo actually in the software. We're going to be editing it in Negative Lab Pro. I did use Silverfast 8 when I first was scanning my negatives, but in my last video, like you guys might have seen, my scans were just a little darker and the photos just weren't as good as Negative Lab Pro. So I'm going to show you guys some side-by-side comparisons of what it looks like to scan on Silverfast 8 and then what it looks like to scan on Negative Lab Pro. As you can see, the differences are pretty obvious, and I'd highly recommend that you get Negative Lab Pro if you can. It does cost $99, but if you can't afford that right now or don't want to get it, then yeah, Silverfast 8 should be sufficient. If you guys do want to see a tutorial on how I use Silverfast 8 to scan and edit my negatives, then comment down below and I'll be more than happy to help you guys out. Next, change your output color format and bit depth to 48-bit HDR RAW for color negatives or 16-bit HDR RAW for black and white negatives. Next, you're going to want to change your file format to DNG instead of TIFF, since we will be editing this in Lightroom Classic. The TIFF file format generally provides excellent image quality, but the downfall to using TIFF, and the only issue and the reason I don't use it, is because the file size is 3 or more times larger than using RAW or DNG, and also you don't have as much flexibility when you're in post-processing, and when you're working with negatives, the more flexibility you have with your image, the better. And last but not least, you're going to want to change your resolution to 3200 DPI if you're planning on making high quality prints that are 5x7 or 8x10, and if you just want to upload on Instagram or you want to make 4x6 prints, then use the 1600 DPI option. Keep in mind though that the higher the DPI, the longer your scanner will take to scan each frame. Now that you have your base settings taken care of, you can finally press the pre-scan button. Once the pre-scan is ready, you need to select each frame by going to Frame, Find Frame, and then selecting the appropriate option. Today I am scanning 35mm film on a film holder, so I am selecting Film Strip 35mm holder. Super easy, right? The software will then automatically select all the frames on the negative. It's not always 100% accurate, so whenever the frames are done being found, make sure that you move the frames around to cover the whole image and then crop it down if you need to. But when you're cropping, make sure that the actual film border is showing, because when you go into Lightroom Classic and use Negative Lab Pro, you're going to need that film border to select the proper white balance. Once you're done cropping and the frames are ready to go, you can batch scan all your frames in one go and then have them placed in a folder ready to go to Lightroom. So make sure you have a good, easy to find destination. And the next and final step is actually going into Lightroom and editing. So to add all your scanned film negatives to Lightroom, you're going to want to find the folder that you saved all the scans to and select them all and then import them to Lightroom. If you want to get fancy and make it easier for yourself, you could set up a watched folder with Lightroom to auto import each time you scan. So second, you're going to want to select all your photos and go to File, Plugin Extras, Update View Scan / Silverfast DNGs. Third, you're going to want to follow the instructions on the prompt, and then afterwards, your profile should look like this, and it should say Negative Lab V2.1. And then for the fourth step, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to want to use Lightroom's white balance selector to sample off the film border, or if you forgot to do that, you can use the auto white balance setting. And then for the fifth step, you're just going to want to crop the picture to just show the exposed film. So the sixth step is to actually open Negative Lab Pro, and to get there, you're going to hit File, Plugin Extras, and then select Negative Lab Pro. All right, and on to the seventh step, the source should automatically be set to ViewScan / SFDNG. Leave it there and adjust the other settings if you'd like. The eighth and final step is to hit the Convert Negative button. After it processes, it will do an initial conversion and you can edit from there any way you'd like. And there you go, guys. That is how you get your film negatives and turn them into an actual photo that you can upload on the internet or you can print. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I had a lot of fun sitting down and teaching you guys this. So if you did like this video, please be sure to subscribe and like this video. Turn on bell notifications if you'd like to be updated whenever I upload my next video. I do upload once a week. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoy your new scans. So thank you guys for watching again. See you guys next time. Bye.
Hi guys. like a girl, and he got 5 stories to tell. I see both sides like Chanel, see on both sides like Chanel.